Hello everyone, my name is Jackie. I'm here with my partner Myra. We're presenting on the AirFrance case analysis. The business goal of AirFrance is loud and clear. They want to increase their international growth, especially they want to increase their market share in the United States. Market demand and competitors. As any customer would want, people would want lower prices and more comfortable service. In this case, AirFrance would have two competitors, Ryanair and Livion. Ryanair is famous for their low cost of flying. However, they are local to Europe, which means they have not yet opened flights to the United States. On the other hand, Livion, they are famous for their higher prices but more comfortable, better service. Their customers are usually business people traveling in business class or people on the wealthier end traveling on first class. 21st century, it is a 21st century. It is the market of the internet, which means AirFrance has two challenges they're facing. The first one would be the search engine rank. They need to make sure that not only do they rank in the first page, but they also rank high up there, preferably top 3. Second of all, the aggregator websites. There are a lot of aggregator websites out there, such as Expedia, Student Universe, Priceline. What they're doing is they provide all of the flights information, including costs, destination, flight time, to customers per their search. This is good for customers because they can compare prices. However, it does make it harder for the airlines because in this case, airlines need to make sure that while they're still making a profit on tickets they're selling, they're still on the lower end of the price, so more customers would come. Search engine. There are 4 search engines we're going to talk about: Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, and Kayak. Google does this algorithm which is a combination of cost per click and the click-through rate. In this case, AirFrance needs to increase their budget proportion for Google. They need to increase their bid price so that Google would rank AirFrance higher up in the page. Secondly, in order to increase the click-through rate, AirFrance needs to make their titles more intriguing. They need to have more intriguing keywords so more customers would click into their website. Secondly, Yahoo, they do something called a content match, which means not only do they try to match the titles, they also try to match the keywords. AirFrance needs to increase their keywords matching system. Thirdly, Microsoft. Microsoft does something called demographically targeted. They target their customers based on their demographic, which is very good for AirFrance because in this case, the marketing team can develop new and very specific campaigns for each demographical group. Lastly, Kayak. Kayak differs from the rest 3 because Kayak is only a travel search exclusive search engine. In this case, AirFrance can collaborate with Kayak and the hotels that Kayak work with to provide a package deal, meaning maybe a trip to France and then a local little hotel to stay at. This way it is easier for customers.
So the next part of the presentation looks into data and the analysis thereof. Here we look at search engine improvement opportunities. The search engine that we chose was Overture because this had the lowest ROAS, which is the return on ad dollar spent, and also the lowest typically engine click-through rate. We saw this opportunity to increase the ROAS by driving visitors to website and then converting them into customers. We found that we need more unique keywords and we need to target what the data is telling us. We can see in the data that we've highlighted that romantic getaway vacation actually had the highest number of impressions. However, this didn't translate into any transactions. Furthermore, the click-through rate is actually very less compared to the rest of the data, meaning that there's something wrong here. Either the quality was not good on our website or people weren't looking for what they searched up, which doesn't make sense, but you never know. Also, we see keyword groups that actually did have a good click-through rate here as Delhi airline, ticket, airport, and airfare. All of these had higher click-through rates and actually good impressions. What this means is that there's possibly an opportunity here to target a customer group that we hadn't been targeting before. Maybe AirFrance can launch on their website something that's specific to this group of customers so that it actually translates into revenue and it increases the ROAS and also the click-through rate. The next opportunity that we saw was in analyzing a specific campaign. We chose to analyze the geo-targeted Boston campaign as this had both successful and unsuccessful keyword groups. First to analyze which keyword groups were actually successful, we look at Paris cheap ticket, Paris flights, Paris cheap flights, and then a geo-targeted to Paris flights. All 4 of these either use the word Paris, cheap, or they either use these 2 words or they use them together. However, we found that once Paris and cheap are used together, the click-through rate actually increases paramountly. We see that the engine click-through rate when Paris is used alone is 1.47%. However, when it's used with when Paris and cheap are used, it converts into something along the lines of 16% or 18%. There's also revenue generated here, meaning that there's a market here that AirFrance is attracting and is actually leading in terms of revenue. When we look down to analyze if Paris and cheap in fact mean that the click-through rate should go up, every time Paris or cheap are used, there's typically a high click-through rate compared to when there's not. Nonetheless, the return on ad dollar spend is all negative here, which means that the company is actually losing money every time someone clicks on their ads because it never translates into transactions. We see an opportunity here to target specifically to customers that want what they're looking for. If we see that, something along the lines of Italy airline, no one booked that, then we should probably cut funds to that, which leads us to the next part of this presentation, is that 97.3% of the keyword groups out here are actually generating a loss, which means AirFrance needs to look back at its strategic makeup and see how it can improve. Here are our recommendations for this specific campaign. Number 1 is to cut funding to keyword groups that are not generating any profits. As we saw in the last slide, the majority, at least 97.3% of all those keywords are generating no revenue. In fact, we're losing money because of the advertisement costs. Number 2 is to recognize strengths. AirFrance can see that it has positive ROAS for keyword groups including cheap and Paris. Maybe it should invest more in the combination of these 2. Number 3 is just to bid on unique keywords and increase the click-through rate and the transaction conversion rate. We saw that Paris and cheap are successful. Maybe AirFrance should say flash sale, Paris cheap, something of that sort, but bid on more unique keywords. Number 4 is just to look at competitors' ads, keywords, and website and see what makes them successful. If you had noticed and looked closely in the previous slide, the majority of the keyword groups were actually for other European destinations, not just Paris, which means that AirFrance is not capturing the market that it needs to and its competitors are because there were no transactions. The best way to figure out what's going on is just to look at its competitors and see what they're doing that's better than them and either imitate them or beat them in some way. The 5th and final point is just to target and capture high-quality customers. AirFrance should target customers who actually return revenue and are not incurring a loss for the company, such as the majority of the campaign that we saw in the geo-targeted Boston campaign. And that wraps up for our presentation, and we hope you enjoyed. Thank you.